Hi, folks. This is Harold Ree with the Paw Print Animal Rescue Podcast. Before we get to the amazing Lori Leduc, just wanted to say that if you wanted to shop with us, we have some t-shirts available on our website. Go to thisispawprint.com/shop, and you can see some of our latest fun t-shirts that you can wear proudly with your rescue friends. Once again, thisispawprint.com/shop. And also, as we've mentioned the past few episodes, we are looking for some guest co-hosts. If you have someone who you think is very passionate about animal rescue, maybe they have that little twinkle in their eye, they want to become a podcaster but are too afraid of the commitment, email us at thisispawprint@gmail.com and give us a shout. Here's our episode with the amazing Lori Leduc and her upcoming podcast called Wiener Dog Lover. Thanks, and on to the show. This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 158. I'm Harold Ree, and today we have a special co-host, Lori Leduc. Hi, Lori.
Hi there, Harold.
So, Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I am a certified master groomer. So that means basically I've done some extra testing and certifications to become a certified dog groomer, which is something that's not asked for in the dog grooming world. So that's something extra that I've gone ahead and done. I have 4 dogs. I have 3 Dachshunds and a German Shepherd. So some might say that I really like the Germans. I've got all of my current pack are all rescue. I have 2 miniature long-haired Dachshunds. They're dad and son, so I rescued them together, Julian and Hardy. I have Baby Wiener, who's a red smooth. Baby Wiener is his name, I guess, in a sense, but his real name is Vinnie, but we call him Baby Wiener. And Sheba is my long-haired German Shepherd, and she's 11, and she's the most meek and mild and quietest one of the bunch. When you have Dachshunds, it's not hard to be the quiet one.
Yeah, around those wiener dogs, it's tough to get a word in, right?
Yeah, sometimes, for sure. She's very quiet and mild. So that's my pack.
Tell us a little bit about the grooming. Where do you get the various certifications and degrees?
So basically, what most groomers do is there's a couple of ways. You can train underneath an already certified groomer, which is what a lot of people do. They'll start out apprenticing, doing bath and grooming, and then kind of progress into the grooming. There's also dog grooming schools, which is another option. And then from there, what you can do is there's various certifications. There's different organizations that do certifications. My certification is through IPG, which is the International Professional Groomers Association. There's a few others, but that was the one I chose that was testing in the area that I lived in at the time. And so basically grooming is a little different than a lot of professions in that anybody could pretty much hang out their shield. It's actually a little bit like dog training. You know, people can say they're trainers, but they've really not done the work. With grooming, it's the same kind of thing. You don't have to have a certification. You can just start grooming and call yourself a groomer. It includes you do various tests. You do written tests, written exams, and then you do practical exams, and they're all tested by the certifiers, and then from there you become certified. So it really shows your clients that you've really committed to yourself to being a professional.
And of course, being a groomer, it is a bit of the entrepreneurial journey. How has that been for you?
Well, I for many years worked for other groomers, which is what I suggest to do for most groomers, so that you get some experience and you get a different view other than just what you learned in school kind of thing. But some groomers come right out of school and start their own businesses. I preferred to work for other people. And then about, 12 years ago now, I opened my own dog grooming salon called Canine Oasis Day Spa in Calgary, Alberta. And I did that for, 8 years about. And then the people where I was leasing my business from decided to sell the building. So I took a break and I took my 4 dogs and I bought a camper van and we traveled across Canada and the US in the camper van for about 8 months. And had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, you told me that before. I mean, tell me a little bit about, was there a spark? Was there a change in your life or an opportunity to go traveling for several months?
Yeah, well, I guess the opportunity was that they sold the building that I was leasing out of. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. And I guess it was something I'd always kind of wanted to do in the back of my mind. And we just decided that's the time. So I bought the camper van. That way we could all be together. I didn't really want to pull a trailer and have a vehicle. And it worked out perfectly because we left in September of 2013 and came back in June of 2014. We did all the coastal states, most of them. We didn't go down into Florida, unfortunately, next time, our next trip. But we hit most of the coastal states and then came back up. We did all of the California coastline, which was beautiful, nice driving through there. And then part of the Oregon coast. But after a while of driving the coastline, it was kind of time to come back inland. And I loved Portland. I had been to Portland the year before. And so I wanted to go back into Portland and then come back up into Seattle and those kinds of places. And so, yeah, it was definitely well worth the trip. Definitely. My dogs were amazing. We walked everywhere. So I would go into a town and leash them all up. All four of us would walk together, and they got as close as they could to the White House and looking through the fence. And we walked down through the French Quarter in New Orleans and all through downtown Charleston and Savannah and the beaches in Myrtle Beach and California. We spent a lot of time on the beaches because we were in the off season. The dogs were allowed to be on the beaches, so it was perfect. So a lot of the times we had very quiet, intimate beaches without many people on them. So it was really nice.
That is amazing. Thanks for sharing that. If someone was going to do the same thing, how many days, weeks, months did it actually take you to plan the trip?
Well, sometimes I think I've been planning it for quite some time in my head. I guess it probably was about a year's worth of kind of thinking about it and getting started. And once they told me that they were selling the building, so I started kind of thinking about it then. And really, the biggest decision is finding what vehicle you're going to take. So because I had decided on the van, I had to plan to purchase the van and find one. The used ones are a little harder to find, so I was really lucky. I found a really amazing van that was in great shape. An older gentleman had it and really kept in really good repair. So that was something else I had to consider because I was traveling alone. I had to make sure that it was in good shape mechanically as well because I didn't want to have any kind of breakdown. And the whole trip, we never had any issue, whether on the mechanical side, except for I a couple of times left my lights on and ran the battery out. But aside from that, we had no other incidents. And but yeah, I guess it depends on the people, how much of a planners they are. I didn't really plan a lot of the route, so to speak. I kind of let that evolve as we kind of moved about. There were some cities that I definitely wanted to see and some just kind of you happen upon. Like I said, Crescent City in California, I don't know what the draw was, but I spent a few extra days there. Mustang State Park in Texas was a little surprise. It was really nothing spectacular in that it's Texas, so it's flat with no real trees, but the beach was really nice and there was not a lot of people there, so that was a surprise that I couldn't have planned. So there's a little bit of planning in terms of where you want to go, but most of it I let kind of evolve as it, and people say, oh, did you go here? And you think, oh, well, let's try that, and you end up in different places. So I let it evolve pretty naturally once I got going.
So coming back to Calgary, how long did it take you to kind of get your normal life back to where you wanted it to be?
Yes, I sometimes think I'm still trying. That was probably the hardest part, was coming back and settling back into normal life and sitting in one place. But what I've done now with my business is I've created a mobile dog grooming business. So I had a little 6x8 trailer built out with all of the grooming needs inside of it. And now I tow it around and go directly to my client's house. So it kind of makes me feel like I'm still on the road a little bit.
Lori has mobile setup, will travel anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
Now, with that said, I mean, how far do you travel for your various jobs?
Not very far. I have a smaller radius. You don't want to be crisscrossing the city too much, and because of where I had set up originally, my client base is pretty much localized, so I don't have to do a lot of driving. But you plan your route so that the way I plan it is I start the furthest away and work my way back closest to home. So I've been pretty lucky in terms of being able to plan for that, as well as traffic. You want to make sure you're not sitting in kind of rush hour traffic in the wrong direction at any time.
Part of how we got connected was you have taken the potentially insane decision to go into podcasting. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts and what you're thinking about.
Sure. Well, it actually kind of started to evolve when I was on my trip. Everywhere we went, we met people that either had a dachshund, wanted one, or knew one when they were growing up. The dachshund is very recognizable. And I started thinking about it, and I'd been listening to podcasts before I went on my trip, and I thought, well, what a neat idea would be to have a podcast all about the Wiener dog. So I'm in the process of starting the interviews, and it's called the Wiener Dog Lover.
Who are you thinking about as potential guests? What's the format of the show going to be?
It will be an interview process, and basically my guests will be both professionals, so that are in the dog world, so working with or talking with people that are trainers or dog nutritionists, vets. There's a lot of those kinds of interviews, as well as people. I've spoken with a woman who's an author, and she wrote a couple of memoirs that have her dachshund in them. I'm speaking with a lady today who has fiction books, but her little dachshunds are highlighted in the books. So I'm speaking with her, speaking with any kind of celebrities that have dachshunds as pets to see, how they ended up having dachshunds in their lives. And so anybody really that has any kind of a relationship to the dachshund is more than welcome.
That's incredible. And I would imagine a lot of passion amongst Wiener dog or dachshund owners.
Absolutely. We're very committed to our breed.
What percentage, just from your own journey, what percentage of dachshunds are adopted as rescue animals versus, let's say, from breeders?
I think it's pretty much probably a 50-50 split at this point. I've had both. My first two came from an amazing breeder out of Ottawa, Canada, and my current pack are all rescue. So, and I do work with Alberta Dachshund Rescue here in Calgary, and so we do help find homes for some of the dogs that end up in foster care. I also do fostering with the group, so I can see a lot of dogs that come into care that by no fault of their own. Dachshunds can be a bit of a challenging breed. They can be a little bit stubborn, and they can be a little bit barky. So if you're not prepared for that, you might end up with in a situation where you can't keep them. So I don't judge. I'm very happy if someone has decided that they need to rehome a dog, then we need to make sure that dog gets into the right home so that it doesn't end up having to bounce around.
Because of their unorthodox body shape, any sort of health issues, anything to be aware of?
That's a great way of describing that. I think I might use that. Definitely. Intervertebral disc disease is one of the common ailments of the dachshund, and basically what that is a slipped disc. It can be genetic, so one of the things with, when you're getting people that are breeding them without doing any kind of testing, you might be breeding the IVDD into them and have problems down the road. I've been pretty lucky in my family. My mom was actually had a dachshund that had IVDD, and thankfully that same breeder that I spoke about out of Ottawa, this was many years ago before all of the technology and advancements that we have today. And Bev and Dave were able to take my mom's dog from being completely paralyzed and having to be expressed to urinate, and they took her and rehabbed her, and she went from being completely paralyzed to walking within 2 months. And within 3 months, she was back home with my mom and never had another issue. So IVDD is definitely a scary set of initials when somebody hears them, but they don't have to be a death sentence. A lot of times the vets want you to do surgery, but a lot of times you can avoid surgery with, really strict bed rest or crate rest and other forms of therapies that we have now. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes surgery is the only option, but definitely euthanasia is not the only option. There are other options out there. So it's definitely one of the scariest parts of being a dachshund owner. In my podcast, I hope to highlight the IVDD success stories. So I'm going to do a mini episode once a month where I interview or let somebody speak about the success that they had with their dachshund that had IVDDs, because that way people can hear that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there isn't only one option, and that they can live really healthy, long lives after rehab.
We're talking to Hilary Leduc. She is a dog groomer in the Calgary, Alberta area. And now we're just talking about her upcoming podcast. What's the name of your upcoming podcast? When do you think it's going to come out?
Wiener Dog Lover is the name of the podcast. And I'm hoping we're in, I guess, March of 2018. And so I'm hoping for at the latest April of 2018. So we're just, like I said, have a few interviews under my belt, and we just need to get them edited and get started and putting them up. What's
the best way right now to keep in touch or keep track? Is it anything on Facebook or Twitter or website?
I have a Facebook page, Wiener Dog Lover. And the Instagram account is very active for obvious reasons. Everybody wants to see a picture of a cute dachshund. My Instagram is a funny name, but it's Wiener_dog_lover_. So it's a lot of underscoring, but Wiener Dog Lover, you can find us there. And my website isn't quite up yet, but it's wienerdoglover.com.
Let's talk about our animals. Any new updates from you about whether it's your current animals or any other animals you're caring for?
I do a little bit of home boarding. I take care of some of my client dogs, and I have a nice old golden retriever that I'm taking care of. She's just a really gentle soul. The first time she came to us she was a little bit nervous because she had never stayed with us before, but she just came back this week for a second tour, and she was running and eager to show up when she got here. So I was pretty happy to see that. It's nice when you see dogs return that have stayed with you that are happy and eager to come back and enjoy spending time with my dogs. And so that's what I've got going on. And then I've got all of my three wieners are, happy as can be as per usual. And my German Shepherd is enjoying having a big dog stay the weekend.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the boarding? Because I think that's interesting, because a lot of folks, I'm sure, do a little bit of boarding. Any sort of tricks or any sort of preparation that you do when you take in a new animal, especially since you already have your own animal? Well,
I only take my client dogs, so dogs that I personally groom. It's not something I put out there to the world to have, strange dogs for the most part. Most of the dogs already know me. We have a relationship through grooming, so that's usually the dogs that I take it for any kind of boarding. And my dog, that's one of the, obviously we want dogs that get along, and sometimes if I'm a little bit curious about the dog, I'll do a practice overnight and just have them come and spend the night one night, and where their parents are still in town. But most of the time, if I know the dog from grooming, I know that it gets along with other dogs and that kind of thing. I'll just not have to worry about it. And as for my dogs, they're amazing. The Wieners are very accommodating. If you want to join in the fun, they're more than happy to have you play with them. If you don't want to be, rambunctious and playful, they're very respectful, and they'll just leave them alone. And my Shepherd is definitely also a very gentle soul. So same thing. She plays a lot more with the bigger dogs. Sometimes the little ones get a little intimidated by her just because she's got big feet and she gets super excited and she'll step on them. And so most of the time Sheba likes the big ones, but the little ones, they like anything. They're very, very, very well socialized little dogs.
I think you should take some credit yourself. I'm sure the dogs take their cues from you. So I think as long as you're welcoming and calm, I think your dogs will be welcoming and calm.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, I just want to give some updates on some of the dogs and cats that we've been taking care of. The first one is our latest adoption. Just a couple days ago, my wife Nancy got Sienna adopted. She was part of a mother-daughter team. So Sienna, the mom, got adopted. Now Vienna, who's our cutie pie, she has already gotten a ton of requests, but she is not yet ready to be adopted, only because she's got to grow maybe a couple more pounds before we get her spayed. So with that said, well, it's good for us because we love having her around, and we'll keep her as long as we possibly can before we let her go. But we know once she gets spayed, I would imagine in maybe 1 or 2 days she'll get adopted, because we've had people just begging us to let them know when she's available. So that's Vienna.
That's always a good sign when we get a lot of contacts for a rescue, a foster that we have.
Absolutely. It's so much fun. And then finally, Zelda the cat. We actually thought she was going to be she was going to require a lot of medical treatment because her whole digestive system basically stopped. But it's been interesting. We have been taking care of her. Nancy's been taking her to work. And she actually seems like she might be back to normal, which is great, because I even set up my very first GoFundMe page ever to help out Zelda to take care of the medical costs. But we recently, over the weekend, turned off the GoFundMe page. We refunded the money because at this point, knock on wood, it looks like Zelda is going to be okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been great. And Zelda is the coolest. Oh gosh, I just loved having her around. So eventually, sounds like today or tomorrow, she'll be passed on to another foster family. And we hope that over the next coming weeks, she will get adopted soon. A beautiful orange cat, 7 months old.
That's awesome.
So other than dogs, Lori, and any other animals that you've either grown up with or taken care of in the past?
I mean, growing up, we had cats, and I did have a cat many moons ago, but Chico was the cat that I had, and I think Chico kind of ruined me for other cats. She was such a personality that I don't know that another cat could ever come back in and take her place. So I've never, after I had Chico pass on, I never really looked at having another cat. And with Dachshunds, I guess Dachshunds get along great with their cats. My first Dachshund and my cat used to travel together when we drove in the same kennel, and they slept together. They were a great pair. But I at this point, it's just easier when you're traveling to have one species.
Well, in your case, I mean, four dogs is a lot of dogs.
People say that, but in all honesty, I'm probably, out of all my group of dog friends, I have the least amount of dogs. But as well, I mean, the Wieners are, the three of them don't even weigh as much as the German Shepherds. So I really only count them as one.
Speaking of your friends, what is the rescue community like in Calgary?
We have a very, very active rescue community. We have a couple of really developed and respected rescue groups here. I've worked with a few of them and, various stages at different kinds of, whether it's fostering or doing some events with them. We have the Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society. That's AARCS is that one. That's a really big one, very well developed, that we've worked with. I've got a new one that's being developed here called Tales of the Misunderstood. They're a new group as well. And then, of course, like I said, I've worked with, and I'm on the board of the Alberta Dachshund Rescue. So those are the three that are popular in Calgary and the ones that I've done some work with, but there's definitely a number of them. We don't have a lot of strays in Calgary, but there are various groups that'll pull dogs actually from the States and bring them up and adopt them out through here to help get them out of shelters that that they've been sitting in for a long period of time, help them find homes and that kind of thing.
We actually had a previous guest from the Calgary area, and she was really proud of the fact that, in Canada, right, as you may know better than me, of course, the whole province of Ontario has a lot of what they call breed-specific legislation, and she was really proud of the fact that Calgary was sort of the opposite, that Calgary had a lot of very progressive people when it came to animal care, and just a lot of the issues that you see in a lot of other large population centers, Calgary doesn't have as much of, because it's just part of the culture in Calgary. Any additional comment you want to add to that?
No, I definitely agree with that. We don't, one of the draws for a lot of people that in the dog world that I'm aware of is that in most cities, the size, like you say, the size of Calgary, we would have maximum amount of dogs or cats or animals that you can have in your care. And Calgary doesn't have that. So in other provinces, you would have where you could only have a maximum of, let's say, 4 animals, whether that be cats or dogs. Calgary has no limit. So I can have 4 dogs, I can have 20, as long as I have them registered and they're well maintained and taken care of. Then you can have as many animals as you see fit to be able to manage in your care. So that's one of the things that some people that move to Calgary are very aware of, is that there's no limits, and definitely we do not have a breed specific, no breed bans, which is also nice. I'm not a fan of the breed ban, so I'm really happy that Calgary is very progressive. We had a gentleman whose name eludes me, I cannot think of it, but that worked for the city and did a lot of work with making sure with having dogs registered and making sure that we had a very progressive, animal control bylaws and whatnot, and that has really helped bring that along as well. And like I said, we don't really have a stray population in Calgary. We have, some places that have overpopulation and some work that needs to be done, but it's definitely being taken care of and helped with a lot of the big organized rescue groups here in Calgary. So it's very, very impressive, the work that they're doing, for sure.
Thank you, Lori Leduc. Moving on to the news. There's been a lot of interesting stories in the news that you and I would like to discuss. Which one do you want to go with first? Do you want to go with the dog who was returned for being too nice, or Hilary Duff?
Let's do the dog that was returned for being too nice. That's definitely not one you hear of on a regular basis.
I'll just tee it up, and please feel free to give some commentary. So a dog named Helena was returned in the Atlanta, Georgia area, was returned to a rescue organization. And the reason for being returned was simply the owners were expecting more of a guard dog type of a dog. And their dog was just simply, as they said, too nice. And so they actually returned the dog, which of course has given a little bit of an uproar, because I think folks are saying that of all the reasons to ever return a dog, well, why would you ever do it for that? But when you see the dog has kind of that blockhead bully type look, boxer type look. So you can imagine that when they adopted, they were assuming that any block-headed dog would be, aggressive Bruno type, and instead the dog is what they call a Velcro dog, just can't stop being loved.
There's a lot of things that you can consider in that article. First of all, when they talk about this so-called block-headed dog, if they've done any kind of research, they would have known that really that a lot of those quote-unquote pity type dogs are very affectionate with their owners. So it's not surprising that she's a Velcro dog. The pitties are absolute love bugs. So they clearly didn't do a lot of research in what they were looking for. That's one of the important things I think that we should highlight, is that when you are looking at adopting a dog, you need to really, sit down and kind of go through a checklist and look at exactly what you're looking for in your animal, because we don't want the dogs that we adopt out coming back. The more they come back, the worse it looks for them. People when they're looking to adopt a dog will think, oh well, this dog's been returned 2-3 times. Well, they blame the dog, when in actuality a lot of times it's the people rather than the dog that were the problem. So we really want to make sure that when we are adopting out as well on the rescue side, is that we really make it clear as to what exactly the people are looking for, and make sure that we pair the dogs in the right home. So a little bit of miscommunication on the part of the rescue group as well as the people adopting her were probably the big problem. But thankfully, I mean you see the picture of her, it's as if she's smiling the whole time you see her in all the pictures. So I imagine that now that they know exactly what she's like, she's going to find a great home.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it goes exactly to your point that usually when a dog gets returned, it's not the animal's fault. It's the human's fault, because either the humans had a completely misguided expectation, or they weren't willing to put the time in, whether it's for just basic dog training, behavior, or anything like that. It's unfortunate.
We see it a lot. Is what happens too is that sometimes the dogs will have a little bit of a grace period. And then after 3, 4, 5 months, they start to really get comfortable in their home, and so sometimes their behaviors or their personalities will come out, and it'll be different than what it was when they adopted. So if, for example, sometimes a dog will be very quiet and mild when in foster care, because they're out of their environment, but then once they get into a home and they feel comfortable, then their energy levels might go up, or behaviors may change, and people think, oh my goodness, this isn't what I signed up for. So making sure that they're paired well with the outside help, so whether it's a dog trainer or a dog walker to help integrate back into the family in terms of their behaviors, and or their energy levels can be maintained by adding an extra couple of walks into their week. So there's definitely things you can do to make sure that relationship develops. And most really well developed rescue groups will make sure to keep that discussion going, so that if the people that adopted the dogs from them have issues, they can call them back and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can we, do you recommend somebody? Is there something you can do to give us a hand? So that they keep that relationship going, and that they make sure that dog stays within that family as long as if they can. If there's something, outside of what you might consider a behavior problem that develops, that's totally different. But for the most part, a lot of the issues can definitely be worked on. And as long as the people are committed to doing it, definitely the relationship can just develop over time.
Thank you, Lori. Moving on, we have famous actress and musician Hilary Duff. She and her boyfriend Matthew decided to adopt a senior dog named Lucy. Any thoughts on this one, Lori?
Many. I think it's great for a few reasons. Obviously, the seniors are a lot harder to adopt out. People, everybody's looking for a puppy, and but at the same time, for example, when I was looking for to adopt my current pack. I wanted my two boys are, like I said, Julian and Hardy are dappled long-haired Dachshunds. And when I decided that I wanted to bring a Dachshund back into my life, I said I wanted it to be a male. I wanted it to be long-haired dapple, and I didn't want a puppy. And people said, wow, you don't ask for much. And I said, that's what I'm looking for. And a friend found them, and there were two of them, dad and son, and she sent me the email, and I said, I was looking for one. I said, do you think I should take them both? And she said, absolutely. And I would never have even considered, separating them now that I know them. But both of them were a little older, not seniors, but definitely a little bit older. And bringing an older dog into your home, for the most part, there's no, they just simply integrate into your home. They're trained, so you don't have to worry about the potty training. It's a pretty simple, it takes a couple of days to maybe explain to them where they have to go. Usually they walk nice, they've got some manners in terms of their training. They don't have maybe the needs that a young dog has in terms of their walking. So if you've got a busy household that doesn't get out as often as you'd like, well, then having a senior dog will fit nicely into a nice, relaxed family household. So definitely bringing a senior dog into your family is well worth the trip to the shelter or to the foster group for sure. Something else to consider as well is that a lot of people think, an older dog, they won't be with us for long. But depending on the size of the dog and the type of dog, you can have them you can get a small dog at anywhere between 10 and 11 years old, and they can live another 10 years. So that's a pretty long life and a relationship for sure. So definitely an older dog is something you should consider. And the fact that Hilary, Duff, and her boyfriend are celebrities, it brings a lot of recognition to the adoption of a senior dog. So good for them.
The more mature animals, you can really bond with them quite quickly. I mean, obviously with a puppy and a kitten, you bond with them just from their cuteness, but on maybe a deeper emotional level, you can really bond with the more mature animals in a way that can be very enriching for both you and for the animal.
Absolutely.
So, let's finish us off with the last story. I don't know why. I think you and I both had a chuckle at this one, and just kind of a little bit of a head scratcher, but really something to learn about. Skywatch Bird Rescue, located in Castlehane, North Carolina. That's right outside of the Wilmington, North Carolina area, along the beautiful Carolina coast there, Atlantic Ocean. They saved 10 donkeys, I guess, really, truly, from going to a slaughterhouse. And the one thing that people don't realize, especially me, is that donkeys are great animals to have around, especially if you have a lot of the carnivorous coyotes and other animals who like to go after birds. Any thoughts on this one, Laurie?
I'm right on board with you there, Harold. I had no idea that donkeys were protective in that they would keep coyotes away from the wildlife, the livestock that you have on your property. So I think it's pretty impressive that this sanctuary was able to take in the 10 donkeys, and they said, they'll keep some of them and then probably find a rescue or find a home for some of the others. And I think it's definitely like you said, a head scratcher and very interesting read. And thankfully for that sanctuary that they were able to take all 10 of them and save them. So that's amazing work for them.
Not only was it a great, it was a quick but well written article, but they actually have an accompanying video as well, so you can actually get to see some of the donkeys and an interview of the one of the folks in charge of Skywatch Bird Rescue. So we'll have all the different news articles in our show notes. Go to thisispawprint.com/158 to see all the different links. You'll also get a chance to see a beautiful photo of Lori Leduc and her companion animals. That's just a great photo. Who took the photo? Because it looks professionally done.
It was about 4 years ago now, and it was a young girl who was just starting out, and her name, I can't think of it off the top of my head. If I think of it, I'll send you an email with it. But yeah, it was a really fun little photo session for sure. And like, I'm just getting into photography as well, so I know how how challenging it can be to get all 4 dogs to sit and listen at the same time. I did bring a friend that was a little bit of our dog wrangler so that I could just pose with them and not have to worry about setting them up. But my guys are pretty chill, so they'll sit like that forever, especially if there's a dangling treat anywhere near. They're quite happy to sit until it's handed over. So they're very good models for the most part.
Laurie, once again, what are the best ways to find you if anybody has a Wiener Dog Lover who they think might be a good guest for your show? What's the best way to get in touch?
I guess the best way probably is my email, and it is nice and easy. It's bark@wienerdoglover.com. So again, that's bark@wienerdoglover.com. And you can check out my website for when it's live. And once my podcast goes live, I'll be promoting it mostly through Instagram. That's, like I said, with Dachshunds or any pet owner, really, the pictures are what everybody wants to see. So my Instagram account is very active, and as well on the Facebook page, the Wiener Dog Lover page. But my email is probably the best way to definitely come directly in contact with me.
In your beautiful travels around the Canada and the United States, what was the city or what was the area that really surprised you the most?
Definitely in Texas were a bit of a surprise, but also Charleston and Savannah areas. I really enjoyed. Both of them were very welcoming to travelers. That was in Savannah, I believe. Yeah, in Savannah, you can actually sleep in the parking lot at the Welcome Center downtown. You can pay, I think it was, back in 2013 when I was there, I think it was about $7, and you pay to basically camp overnight in the parking lot. And then what that also gives you is you can park at any of their meters anywhere in their downtown. So if you decide to go out for dinner, you can, drive into the downtown with your vehicle, park it at one of the meters, and that tag that you've spent $7 on makes it allows you to park there. So very, very welcoming to travelers. I really, really enjoyed that part of being in Savannah and Charleston area. Both of those places I would definitely go back, absolutely, and spend some time. And the other place actually was a surprise, was Myrtle Beach. Again, I was there in the off season, so there wasn't a lot of tourism that there would be when you're busy during spring break and golf season. But definitely the beaches along there were definitely beautiful and a great place to hang out with the dogs.
A great commercial for South Carolina hospitality and tourism.
Absolutely. I was surprised by it. I think it's a great idea. If places, did that, it would really bring in a lot of the tourism because, people will want to go and stay where it's, reasonably priced, and they spend money once they're there. So I thought that was a great thing for Savannah to do.
Well, to wrap up, Florida's yours. Really, anything else that you'd like to share, Laurie, that we haven't discussed already?
I think we covered a lot today, Harold. Again, just like with rescue, don't discount it. Be open to taking a look at some of those dogs and cats out there that really need homes. And like we said, by no fault of their own, sometimes just things change, life changes, and people. It's a hard decision. I know, working with rescue, that people don't make that decision lightly to surrender a pet. So sometimes it is just a change in family dynamics or things like that. So it has nothing to do with the behavior of the dog at all. And it's a hard decision, but it's definitely one that people make with a lot of thought. And if you can find some time and space in your home, then absolutely bring a rescue and into your life, and you won't be disappointed.
We just want to say thank you to Laurie Leduc of the Wiener Dog Lover podcast. Check it out in the next few weeks and months. We also want to say thanks to Drew Ackerman. Drew is the amazing podcaster behind the Sleep With Me podcast. If you suffer from any kind of insomnia, Drew's podcast is truly meant to help you fall asleep. Check him out on your favorite podcast player. Look for Sleep With Me. All the topics we discussed today you can find on our show notes. Go to thisispawprint.com/158. All the music you hear on the Paw Print Animal Rescue podcast is performed, composed, and produced by the amazing Luke Gartner-Brereton. Find him at info.vanillagroovemedia.com. If you're looking for us on social media, you can find me and Nancy on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Search for This Is Paw Print, and that's our handle. We just want to say thanks to all of you for listening to Paw Print and sharing it with your friends and family. We've now been listened to in over 130 countries and territories around the world, and we could not have done it without your support. So thanks again. And remember, you spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time on Paw Print.
Paw Print is a production of EVER Education.
You get it!